Just a Jewel with our host, Arthur Malik.
Welcome to Just a Jew. I'm your host, Arthur Malik. Today I'm sitting with a brother by the name of Damon Jones. He's an activist. He's a publisher for Black Westchester magazine. He's doing phenomenal things in the community. Mr. Jones, tell us a little things about yourself, a couple of things, man, so the viewers can know who you are.
Yes, how you doing? And thank you for having me here.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, brother. First, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. I'm a proud black man that lives in Westchester County. I have worked for the Westchester County Department of Corrections for 28 years now. I'm still working. I'm a publisher of Black Westchester magazine. I am also the co-founder, one of the co-founders of the Westchester Black Political Conference. I just try to, with all the organizations, try to bring awareness to our people and other people on the importance of black culture and black responsibility here in Westchester County.
What is the importance of black culture? What is the importance of it?
The importance of black culture for us to understand where we came from. If we don't really know, I mean, outside of slavery, I'm not even going all the way back to slavery, right? I'm just saying understand where we came from here in Westchester County. If we don't know where we came from, we don't know how policies, procedures, legislations affect our community, we don't know where we're going. And a lot of times, that's not discussed at the dinner table. That's not discussed with our children. Why communities black communities throughout Westchester are in the condition that they're in one of the richest counties in the nation, right? And we don't even look at that, right? We're the richest county in the nation, but legally we're segregated. Legally, the communities of color are not at the same plateau as the white communities. I mean, this is something that needs to be talked about because these are our children, you know, and we have to stop the cycle. You know, Malcolm said before, if you go to if you live in a poor neighborhood, you're going to get what? A poor education.
Absolutely.
And a poor education is going to give you what? A poor paying job.
Absolutely.
Right? So we got to stop the cycle. So our communities can grow like every other community in Westchester. That's all we asking. We ain't asking for nothing extra. We're just asking for the right things that our community can prosper like everybody else.
And what specifically are you doing to instill this information into those who are somewhat lost?
Well, we have the paper, Black Westchester magazine. It comes out once a month. It's free, right? At no cost. We have the website, blackwestchester.com. We have 2 radio shows. We have an internet radio show on inthemix.com, and you all can see that on Facebook and YouTube. And we also on WVOX AM 1460 the first Monday out of every month when we're on there. And we have in the past sponsored forums, community forums. We have worked alongside the White Plains Greenberg NAACP. We have sponsored the first Black Political Conference last February to discuss the issues, the political issues and where we are as black and brown people and poor people and even white people in Westchester County. So we've been pushing the issues and working with even elected officials to get information out to the people.
Okay, so what do you think distinguishes, what is the distinction between what you're doing and your white counterparts that may be helping you? Because there's still a separation, because some activists says that, you know, it's just for pro-black, they're pro-black, and they separate themselves from the white counterparts that may be helping them in their endeavors.
I think, I always say, just because I'm pro-me don't mean I'm anti-you, right? And surprisingly enough, a lot of our support has come from the progressive white community. Right. When we come out and, you know, and I'm also law enforcement and also belong to a couple of national law enforcement organizations. And when the issue of police brutality, police accountability come up, like the Kenneth Chamberlain shooting, and me and Kenneth Chamberlain Jr., we're close friends. We go back, and actually Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. was a retired correction officer. So at Westchester County. So when we support issues like that, you know, especially Kenneth Chamberlain, over 60% of the support base is white.
Right.
You know, we don't see a lot of our people at the marches and at the rallies, right? You know, in Westchester, we see a lot of progressive white people. So we work along with those who are like-minded and want change and want to address the issues of equality, right? Because everything we want, equality is the key. Like, how can we be equal on all levels? How can we address the inequality in the system, right? It's just not, you know, someone talking bigotry, or it's actually in the system. It's in the legislation, right? It's in the governance, right? So how do we work towards that to put some type of equality agenda in governance? And we work right along with our white counterparts. You know, some people say, oh, you talk about race all the time. Because if you look at it, if you look at the statistics, we're separated. You know, whether you want to say it or not, you know, we're just as segregated now than we was when Martin Luther King was here.
No, black people definitely are the only ethnicity that's really separated in today's society. However, when I see things that we're saying that we are fighting for the black people or we're fighting for the rights of black people, to me, I try not to separate blacks and whites. I no longer try to say that I'm pro-black. I try to say that I'm pro-justice. Because if you think about it, that's what we're striving for, the equality of a people. You see, and,
Right.
and if you're sincerely for equality, whether whoever's being served unjustly or unjustly, you will fight for that particular endeavor.
No, I do agree. I do agree. But unfortunately, we fall behind.
Absolutely.
Right? The civil rights movement, you know, which was pioneered by black people, right? Even poor whites got more advantage out of that movement than actual black people. Civil rights laws was passed. That was for black people, you know, but all due respect, even the LGBT has moved forward, right? Than black issues.
Absolutely.
Right? There's nothing wrong with that. I say that's great. They should have the rights. But when we look at the bigger scheme of things, black people have fell behind. Even in treaties, right, with the Indians that included black people, right? We didn't get those same rights. That's actually in the treaties. We're in those treaties. So according to Dr. Claude Anderson, and in his book Powernomics, he talks about that. So we are still struggling, right? We are still at the bottom of the totem pole, right? But we spend more money than any other ethnic group in America. So how are we still at the bottom, but we spend the most? So I mean, these are the issues that should be discussed in the black community, because I don't think we have a crime problem. I think we really have a social problem, right? Because we're socially disconnected to what we can be and what we should be. And we need everybody to come to the table. We need the preachers to come to the table. We need the politicians to come to the table. We need the community leaders. We need the young people to come to the table, right? But come to the table not as tribes, because that's what we are, right? We need to come to the table as people, right? Because everybody else, they don't have those problems. The Italians don't have those problems, right? On a whole, they have their own issues, right? They have their own issues.
On a larger scale, they definitely do,
right.
No doubt about it.
Asians don't have those problems, right? Jewish people don't have those problems, right? Irish don't have those problems. The only person that have that issue is us.
It's us.
So we got to deal with that with us.
But that's beautiful, and you keep mentioning the word community. And I like to focus on that word also, because if you think about it, the last 5 letters on community is unity.
Exactly.
So a lot of times, a community doesn't exist within the blacks anymore.
No.
There's no community. You know why? And you just mentioned LGBT.
Right.
And they surpassed us. Why? Because they have the 5 letters. The 5 last
Yeah,
letters of
exactly,
community. They have
exactly.
unity. So whenever you bring unity, you bring strength. And a lot of times we think because there's numbers, there's strength, but that's only union.
Exactly.
But it's imperative that us as black people, we establish that unity. And how do we do that? My question to you.
We have to communicate. I mean, it's really hard because we're broken up into gangs, you know, and it's a culture that's within our community that has to change. How do we solve the gang problem with the kids when the adults act like gangs themselves, right? You got this church not talking to that church, right? You got this organization not talking to that organization. And we're fighting among ourselves on an adult level, right? So we could never get our kids to come together on the children level. And actually our children are losing disrespect because they're coming up in a community that they see that's totally different to what other communities and other ethnic groups are having. So I think we have to really re-educate the kids because every revolution has started with the youth, right? So I think sooner or later at this time, younger people are going to have to step up because this is the future that they're living on. The older people's going to be hard to change, you know. But I think it's the younger people that are seeing it, and the internet and social media is giving kids a worldview. You know, it's giving kids a worldview, and I don't think the change will come from an adult. I think it's actually going to come from somebody coming up.
You give us some. That's a great point, and the point, if I use this analogy right here, we got a boiling pot of hot water, and we take a frog and we throw that frog in that boiling pot of hot water. You know what that frog going to do? He's going to jump right out.
Exactly.
But now if you take the same frog and you put him in room temperature water and you put him in that pot, and you gradually turn the pot up, he's going to stay in the pot because he's going to get used to the degree until you cook him.
Exactly.
This is what's transpiring against those you just said. The church is separated from this church because they're power struck. Not realizing that they're all in the same pot being boiled. You see?
Exactly. You're right, brother.
So we have to understand that we're all in the same pot. We're being cooked. And we don't even realize that we're being cooked because the temperature is comfortable.
That's right.
Right? So we have to become uncomfortable sometimes so we can reach our comfortability.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think the paper Black Westchester has made people uncomfortable. You know, I mean, because we are trying to inform the people. And truth is truth. You know, and I always said, if you feel that whatever we print is a lie, then sue us.
Or disprove it.
Exactly. Because I'm ready to stand before everything we print or put online. I'm ready to put my life behind it because we are trying to inform the masses of what's going on. And we're trying to address it in a way that people will read and try to act somehow, right? Whether it's signing a petition or whether it's calling elected official and saying, hey,
conscious.
Right, you know, I don't like what happened. You know, you need to change it. Just try to get involved, you know, more. And I get it, you know, because a lot of people, you know, they go to work, they come home, and they caught up in the struggles of life, right? They really don't understand what's going on and what's happening. But I think black people need to be more knowledgeable of the political process, you know, and how the political process affects our everyday life, not just politics or what we see on TV with politicians, but everything that we use in our daily life. You know, it's politics behind it. We're sitting in here in this studio. There was politics to make sure this studio happened and maintained and continue, right? Because other cities don't have what White Plains have, right? But they're not pushing for it, you know, for information to get to the people. So I think the more people get involved, I think it will change because the power's in the people.
I just want to say this to you, Damon Jones, that I want to commend you first and foremost.
Thank you.
For being an activist. And so many people use this prefix to their name but are unaware of what an activist is because the first 3 words of activist is ACT. It's an act. Right? It's an act. It's an emotion. So you have to do things. You have to act. You have to motivate yourself and do particular things, because I don't consider anyone an activist who never received backlash.
Exactly.
Right? Because once you become an activist, as you speak the truth, people are going to be uncomfortable with it.
Exactly.
So if you've never had backlash, if you never had someone trying to stop you in your motion, you are only acting. You are not an activist.
Exactly. And those that are watching, in the recent news articles about Mayor Thomas attacking my wife's and my daughter's business in Mount Vernon, Cupcake Cutie, that's backlash, right? And myself and my family, we understand it, you know, but it's still speaking truth to power. And I will never stop, you know. But when you attack my family, when you try to use your power as a mayor to attack my family instead of dealing with me as a man, you know, then that shows your character. But we're going to continue to speak the truth. I'm proud of my daughter for standing up, and I commend her for calling what it was. It was a political attack, and we're going to deal with that issue another way. But
and this is the mayor of
Mount Vernon, Mayor Richard Thomas.
Richard Thomas.
Right. Okay. We'll deal with that issue another way. That's all I'm going to say on that. But I do understand getting backlash, you know, and pushback from those that are in power. There's also been, you know, some pastors who say, "Brother, you shouldn't say that."
Oh,
but my my whole thing is it the truth or not? Right? You know, I think pastors, historically, black pastors have been, you know, in the civil rights era, you know, they've been a cornerstone. But in this era where we're now in, when we're talking that Black Lives Matter, right, and we're talking procedural justice, black pastors have been absent. They've been missing from the struggle.
Because they are receiving their tilth from a higher power.
No, exactly.
And when I say higher power, I'm not talking about the God they claim
Exactly.
to worship. I'm talking about from the government.
Right.
They are receiving a tilth from the government to remain quiet.
Exactly. But some of them just don't know how to do it.
Right.
They're
not concerned with the truth,
right,
though.
Right.
If it's
some
not beneficial,
exactly,
they're not concerned with the truth.
Some of them just, I know some that just don't know how to do it.
But
because the economic structure of the church is not made for that anymore.
Right, they're conformed.
Right? Exactly.
They're already conformed.
Exactly.
But I have to, and I like being fair as an individual because I like to be treated fair.
Mm-hmm.
And dealing with Mayor Thomas, you know, I can't go in a store and spend one side of a coin. It's imperative that I know both sides.
Exactly.
So what is the inception of the dilemma between you and Mr. Thomas, if I may ask?
The inception, I don't know. You know, I don't know. As I said on my radio show, if he has something that is so in his heart that he has to try to find ways to attack my family.
Is there something said in the magazine that may have ruffled his feathers?
A lot of things were said in the magazine. You know, we talked about his corruption. We criticized him hiring a confessed federal informant as a deputy commissioner, Joe Spezio.
He's a what?
Confessed federal informant.
Oh.
And we have, I wanted to wear the shirt with the cover of Joe Spezio on it where we printed it, and we have, which was verified by authorities of Greenburgh Police Department, that he was a confessed federal informant. And we criticized him making him deputy police commissioner even before we found out he had no experience in policing. He's a garbage man. He owns carton companies, right? But we also know through the indictment of the AG's office, Mayor Thomas, because he's indicted on criminal charges, that this same person paid his bills throughout the campaign. I'm not saying that. The AG's office said it, right? So when you question his motives, and when you question how a man can have that, and then nobody's upset, right? You will never see in Scarsdale or Greenberg or Hartsdale or Rye that someone would appoint someone that has no knowledge of law enforcement as deputy police commissioner, a civilian that has no knowledge, and put him over the police department, right? You will never see that, but you only see it in the black community, right? And why wasn't the powers to be from county, state, and federal say, hey, you can't do that?
So is it a collective outcry of Mount Vernon, or is it just?
Now it's becoming a collective outcry.
So prior to that, it was the outcry was just basically coming from you
and a group of people
a small group of
people.
Okay.
Now with his actions of illegally shutting down Kayla Tennis, the tennis court over in Memorial Field, illegally shutting down other businesses, people are seeing that this mayor is unhinged, and firing people because they wouldn't do what he said. We reported a lot of these things, but my criticism personally was on the level of blackness, on the level of consciousness, and using Dr. Claude Anderson, Dr. Jeffries, using their teaching and analyzing him through what they were saying, not just my opinion, but we use fact-based analysis. So if one article I said it was the Mobutu syndrome, right? He suffered from the Mobutu syndrome. Why did I say that? Because Mobutu was funded by people that didn't have no interest in the Africans, right? Richard Thomas is funded by Joe Spezio, according to the AG report, that have no real interest in black people, other than what he could gain financially.
So he paid for his particular spot.
Exactly. So when I use those fact-based analysis, right, you don't want to address me, right, but you want to do things to my wife. You want to do things to my family shop, because my wife is a detective in Mount Vernon. Mm-hmm. So you want to do those things, that's just cowardly. So I understand the pushback.
But I think if you're in a political seat, you should be open for criticism. You should be open for rejection. You should be open for disrespect. You should be open for these particular things if you're sitting in a political seat.
Exactly.
So I think the mayor should definitely be open to these particular things, because it only can enhance his career if he acknowledge it and try to correct the behaviors.
Yes, but unfortunately, him, his brother, his sister, one of his sisters, he got many sisters, one of his brothers, they have retaliated against people. And unfortunately, these things are going to end up having him having all type of different lawsuits.
Because if it's sincerely about financial, if it's a lucrative deal, this is why they're doing whatever they're accused of doing. Then of course, no one wants someone else to stop their bread, their money from coming. So they're definitely gonna. It's gonna be a backlash. It's gonna be a confrontation.
Exactly.
But I want to ask you, why do you care? Because there's so many people who don't care about their communities, about their neighborhoods. I use neighborhoods because I don't see that we have communities.
Right.
So why do you care? Why do Damon Jones care about the success of his neighborhoods?
Because I was raised that way. I was raised by a single mother who had the wherewithal to have me around a lot of positive black men. My father died when I was 4, and she had some coworkers. She worked at IBM, right here in White Plains, and a lot of her coworkers took me under their wing. Right. And then people that she dealt with, they were knowledgeable. So I came up under the understanding that community was first. You know, I came up under having mentors that were strong black men, you know, that didn't compromise, you know, for no ideas.
Came up under unity.
Yeah, exactly. And then getting into law enforcement, once again, I was around some very powerful, heavy hitters, you know, in law enforcement that were part of black law enforcement organizations that didn't tolerate racism and bigotry, you know, in their departments, you know, or with coworkers. So I was brought up this way, and also in the '90s, I was in the Nation.
Okay.
From 92 to maybe 90, 98.
I don't want to cut you up, but I have two more questions
Yes, sir.
that I need
Yes,
to
sir.
ask you, right? I need to ask you. When there's backlash coming from someone, from a political person of power, you normally see who your friends and foes really are.
That's right.
Are there some of your so-called friends that abandoned you because of the strife that you have with the mayor of Mount Vernon?
No, those are my true friends. Look, I've been in the activist business for a long time. I've been speaking out on issues, not just in Westchester, but throughout the nation, traveling throughout the nation. I've learned to keep my circle tight.
Okay.
And I really don't have a lot of friends, right? Because I like to keep myself private. So none of my friends have abandoned me. What I've seen is that people don't like when they're exposed, and they act like they're your friends.
Exactly.
But they're not, because a lot of people have their own agenda, and they think, oh, you're gonna run for office. I ran for office once. They tried to put me in jail, but they can have that. I think I have more power with the people being where I'm at, doing what I'm doing.
Okay, we definitely running out of time, but I'm gonna try to get this last question on. What's going on with this challenge? This you challenged the mayor in a boxing duel?
Yeah, I challenged the mayor. I said, you know, come at me, but he wanted to do a Nintendo game. So in the paper he said Nintendo. But then I got some calls, right? And they told me to leave that alone for now.
Okay. Mr. Jones, we run out of time. I think. Do you think it's possible that you'll come back and we could do a part two to this?
I love to come back, brother.
All right, because it's definitely a pleasure.
Yes, sir.
We ran
Thank
out of
you.
time. Mr. Damon Jones, activist, sincere activist, because he's in motion. So this is Arthur Malik with Just a Jewel. Remember, it doesn't matter where you are in life. It matters who you try to help in life. Just a Jewel. Peace.
Just a Jewel with our host, Arthur Malik.